Everybody now. Yodelay, 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 yodeloo. Yodelay, 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 yodeloo. Good evening.
Good evening. Oh,
Hello.
brilliant. And that was a lovely surprise.
I just want to tell you sort of how I got into the business, and I didn't go to drama school, and how it all happened and how I sort of worked my way through. So there we have it. Should I sort of get on, John, and go for it?
Really, in the words of the song, let's start at the very beginning, Chris.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's start. Tell us what happened or what you did before any of all of this happened. What were you doing before you know?
Okay. I left school at 16. My family moved around the country. I am small in stature, and because we moved south, a lot of the time I was bullied. So, you know, as you've heard it before, I became the joke. You know, a lot of people become the joker of the class to get through it, you know, just to sort of... So then I left. I thought, well, I always knew I wanted to perform, and I did make people laugh, but I didn't know what to do. So my father had been in the Royal Navy, and he told me wonderful stories. So I joined the Navy, and I was a chef. I trained as a chef, but it wasn't I wasn't in long, sort of about a few months after the training, that I thought, this actually isn't for me. But in those days, you had to sign up for 12 years. So I was legally bound. I had a 12-year contract in the Royal Navy. So anyway, I got out on special grounds. I basically told them I wanted to be an actor. So I left. I got out of the Navy. But while I was in the Navy, I was a boxer to sort of toughen myself up. But then I became the Navy's flyweight champion. And then I represented the Navy as a junior chef at Hotel Olympia, and I got a certificate of merit in the culinary arts. So I came out, both, I guess, performance based. So I came out of the Navy on a Thursday, and on the Saturday, I knew I wanted to work in the theatre. So I went to the Theatre Royal Norwich, that some of you may know. I went to Theatre Royal Norwich and walked in and said, could I work on the stage crew? And the stage manager said, well, you're very fortunate. We've got the Royal Opera coming, the Royal Ballet, and who remembers Prospect Theatre, Timothy West. And so I had a lot of work, and then they kept me on, and because I showed keen, and I said, I want to learn everything there is to learn backstage. So that's what I did. And then one week, a theatre company turned up, and Derek Jacobi was in the company. And I went to Derek Jacobi and I said, look, I want to be an actor. Can you help me? And I said, I'm hoping to audition at some point. Would you go through some Shakespeare with me? And I remember he spent an hour or two with me on The Merchant of Venice. So then I thought, well, these actors are all very approachable, you know. So I used to stand in the wings, do my stage management stuff, but watch all these brilliant actors come, because then it was the big touring come, you know, they were all coming, and it was wonderful. So I did that, and then in the old days you could get a grant to go to drama school. You know, it doesn't happen anymore. And so I applied for a grant, and you had to audition, and I auditioned, and I auditioned. I asked an actor to go through it with me, and the speech. I got the audition, I got the grant. So then it was up to me to get into drama school. And I auditioned for 4 drama schools. I almost got into RADA, but I didn't. And I didn't get into any of them. I had the money, I had the grant, had the backing, but I couldn't get into drama school. You know, so some people, I guess, would give up at that point. And so I didn't get in drama school, which fired me on. I thought, well, there's got to be a way. I enjoyed working in stage management. So summer came, I left the theatre and I went to Butlins. There was a job at Butlins in Clacton on the stage management. I went there, but while I was there, I realised that I quite fancy performing. So I wasn't a redcoat, but I got myself a red jacket from the redcoat office and some white trousers and had them turned up. And unbeknownst to anybody, I used to make out I was a redcoat in the evenings after the show. So I do the show as stage management. I put on my gear and I'd go up to the ballroom bar or whatever, and I'd go around the tables chatting, joking, doing my Norman Wisdom impersonation. The reason I did it was I didn't get paid much, but I thought if I could do that, what was happening is people saying, "Oh, would you like a drink?" You know, and I'd say, "Oh, no." So I'd line myself up for drinks every night, so I didn't have to pay for drinks. You know, so that was Butlins. Bit of a learning curve. So then I thought, right, after Butlins, what do I do? I've got to get to London. That's where theatre starts. I went one day, I booked a ticket to see, I think it was Chorus Line back then. I went to London from Suffolk for a day out, and I went round as many West End theatres as I could, asking stage management, whoever was in the afternoon, whether they had any work. I was offered 2 jobs. I was offered one as an electrician. I can't remember the theatre. And I was electrician at the Dominion, that's now the Dominion. They were putting on the Elvis musical.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was offered the flyman job. Was it Duke of York's, did we say, John?
Yes, it was the Duke of York's, yeah.
But unfortunately, I wasn't that qualified, so I missed out. And I even went to the Aldwych Theatre to try and meet Trevor Nunn, you know. I just sort of knocked on, I went in and they had an office, RSC had an office up, so I knocked on and I did get in the office. I don't think I didn't get to meet Trevor, but they were very nice to me in the office and gave me some advice.
1977, you noticed something in the stage newspaper.
Yeah. So then I looked at the stage, there was an advert for assistant stage manager at the Arts Educational Drama School. So I thought, interesting. I shall go and do this job if I get it, but then I can see what it's like at drama school, and then maybe I can talk my way into being a student. So I got the job, and no word of a lie, see, I had £5, that's all I had, and I had a room at the YMCA in the Barbican, and I had very little money, and I think my dad gave me the money for the first couple of weeks' rent there, which wasn't a great deal. So I did get the job, and it was a lovely job. But while I was there, I realised I didn't think drama school was for me. And I can't explain why, but I then began to think maybe that's why I didn't get in, because, you know, I don't think it would have suited me. Anyway, so then while I was working there, you know, things were lying around, and I saw this book called Contacts. So I looked in Contacts one day and I thought, I want to be funny. I want to be not a comedian, but a comic actor. So I opened Contacts and I looked under C for comedy. And the first thing I saw was clown. And it was a company that went to schools, festivals, theatres. And in actual fact, we did a show at the National Theatre. Inspector Clueless, which was a take on Inspector Clouseau. Okay. So, and I played Inspector Clouseau. Anyway, so this clown company I rang them up and I said, hello, I want to be a clown. And he said, oh, really? He said, well, in actual fact, we're auditioning. Our auditions are tomorrow. Would you like to come? I said, yeah, I would. So that night, I spent my time juggling, practicing my juggling. And I had a couple of skills that I'd learned at school because I was in the gymnastic team. So I practiced my skills. I went to the audition. I walked in the audition on my hands, opened the door, then walked right down the hall, sat on the chair, juggled for them.
So where were we? We were talking about.
So I was a clown. I got an equity card. I didn't actually know what one was at that point, really, but I was obviously very lucky to get one. So I did that. I toured for a year. I learned a lot. I sort of honed my skills as a clown and all those, and I was kept very fit. And then in 1979, Crucifer of Blood was being brought to the Haymarket Theatre in London, and there was a job for an acting ASM, and I got the job, and I had to understudy 3 people. Now you have to bear in mind, I haven't acted until, I haven't acted, but I'm now in the West End understudying, so I've got to sort of up my game. And but I'd always, even though I was young, I'd still gone for a couple of lessons, and I used to go to the Oval House in Kennington and do workshops and that. So I was always trying to train myself, because I didn't. And it was at this point, Christopher of Blood, I'll tell you the cast. The first cast was Keith Michelle, Susan Hampshire, and our friend David Horowitz. And David's going to have a shock, because he won't remember when we next meet. He's going to be, it was 40 years ago since we met. So I was his assistant stage manager, and Derek Royal was in it. John Cater was in it, and it was a Sherlock Holmes play. John Quentin was in it, and John Quentin, at the time, my voice wasn't that good, and it was very Mancunian and very tight-chested. And John introduced me to Elizabeth Wilmer, a voice coach, and I used to go to Liz Wilmer, and she helped me find my voice. And this is how it all started. I just started to sort of meet these wonderful people. Keith Michelle was a fantastic help, used to, help me, and Susan Hampshire. And I met, then what's interesting in the story is, as a young person, as I look back, you realize that the business is about sort of who you meet, and, and being in the right place at the right time. And then Robin Carr was the company stage manager. And later on in my story, I meet him again when he's the head of comedy at LWT. You see, so, we know how it goes. So that was that. Then I went, that ended. And I've got 1,000 stories, as I'm sure you all have, but if I tell them all, we'll be here till the morning. So I'll have to miss out some really nice stories. But I played a sailor. I was thrown on one night. The guy playing the American sailor from Alabama, Mordecai Smith from Alabama. So he was taken ill, and I had to be thrown on, but I hadn't really, with understudies, we hadn't got round to sort of learning it. That I knew it, but as I was going on, I said, I haven't worked on the American accent. What am I going to do? And he said, well, do Cockney, do anything. So I was pushed on, dressed as a sailor, and the costume was like, just hanging off me. You've got, and at this point, the cast had changed, and no, it hadn't changed. And I got pushed on, and out of nowhere, I went, hello, I'm Mordecai Smith from East Ham. And the whole cast was expecting this guy from Alabama. And of course, like, Susan Hampshire was lying dead on the floor in this Sherlock, and she starts sort of laughing and that, and then the rest of them all turn their back on me.
So you then moved in 1980, the New Mermaid Theatre, which was the Lord Bernard Miles, doing children's shows.
Yeah, so I did learn, and I did go on in Crucifer of Blood. I went on as one of the lead roles, and it was all right. It was all good, and it was. I got much better, and with a lot of help. And then, Mermaid Theatre. Then that was Bernard Miles, and he ran a thing called Molecule Theatre, and we toured the schools. So it was back in the van, touring the schools and the festivals, and and really good theatres, all the theatres around the country. That was fantastic experience, and Lord Bernard Miles taught me a thing or two as well. I was always keen to ask, and that was wonderful. And then after that, I'd been working at the Roundhouse on the stage crew. I always went back to the stage crew if I wasn't acting, because, you know, same job, it's all teamwork.
Yes.
And it also taught me how to respect, you know, everyone apart from the actors, you know, it's a teamwork, isn't it? So I then, across the road in Camden, was a company called Stir About Theatre Company, and they visited prisons, all the prisons in the country, with satirical review. So this was my chance now to sort of do a bit of comedy in that. I got to write some stuff, and we toured all the prisons, and we wrote some stuff, and we were given scripts because there was no copyright. We were given scripts from Graham Chapman, Monty Python team, and Ronnie Barker. So we had good scripts, and we had a great time touring prisons. And, you know, it's such a shame we don't have the sort of cameras that we have now. I have no photographs of me standing between two mass murderers. You know, it's as we dress them up as women for our end of show panto. You know, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then I went back to the Roundhouse after that. I did that for a year. Went back to the Roundhouse.
Yeah.
And then I saw an advert. Well, I got wind that there was a musical in New York called Barnum with Jim Dale and Glenn Close. And I went and bought the album because I love circus, you know, because of the circus connection. But then I played the album, and then all of a sudden there's this song called Bigger Isn't Better. And that's where my sort of career shifted.
I'm going to pause you there, Chris, just before you go on. We've got to see this little thing. This is such an iconic picture, and I hope it works, everyone. And there he is. This is his musical number. Hopefully this will work. So if you want to hear. Lovely.
Beautiful.
Who is that young man? So, so to sort of round that up, so there I am. I've got the skills, the circus skills. I learned the song before they even start auditioning, and then when I kept looking out for it, and I then did research. I found out who the producer was, Harold Fielding. I called them up and I said, "I am your Tom Thumb. Please audition me. I won't let you down." So I did some sort of pre-work, and then the auditions came. I was offered one, and then it was 6 recalls. And as I said to John the other day, every small actor in the world turned up, you know, to this. You know, there's about 1,000 little fellas all up for this one job, and. Anyway, so, you know, it got whittled down, but it was 6 auditions over 3 months, and it was agony. And then I got down to the last 2. And when I was offered the job, I always remember feeling so sorry for the other guy, because we'd come on a journey, you know, we'd gone all the way 3 months to get this part. And I got it. And I was absolutely honored, because in America, the guy was a ballet dancer. More a ballet dancer than a singer, and I'd never sang in public before, so it was like extraordinary. That the first time I sang in public was at the Palladium and in such a big show, and it was wonderful. So, you know, I didn't know, I sort of went along with it. I was so young, you know, it is when you're young.
Is it not right that you said you had your own dressing room as well and had
Oh,
lots of
yeah, I mean, it was. I've got some lovely. So I will tell you a couple. My first singing lesson was with Cy Coleman, who actually wrote it and who has written some well-known musicals. Yeah, I had my own dressing room. I thought that was cool. But I let everybody come in there because I felt lonely on my own. I didn't, you know, and I had a fridge, and I'm going to, what's this? I'm looking, I've got a story here. Oh, yeah, and I met lots of people. Zsa Zsa Gabor chatted me up, which I always remember. And then Ginger Rogers came to see the show. And she was sat down. I always remember she was so elegant, so beautiful. And obviously, she was an older lady. She wasn't as we see her in the movies, but she was beautiful. I walked up to her. We used to go into the audience before the show as circus entertainers, and I used to go and do some tricks that I knew and entertain the crowd. And this one night, Ginger Rogers was in, and I went up to her and I said, "Good evening, Miss Rogers." Good evening. I said, "Miss Rogers, is there any chance we could have a dance?" And she said, "Well, yes, of course, my dear." So she stood up and I danced with Ginger Rogers in the aisle at the London Palladium, and everybody around applauded. And then when I finished, I always remember, I wouldn't say it now, it's like when you're young, I said, how was that? Was it as good as Fred? to which she said, I always said, "It was different, my dear." So that was my Ginger Rogers. But all these wonderful, well-known big stars came to see that show.
So you had a wonderful time. And how long were you in the show for?
I did it for a year, I think, at the Palladium.
Yes.
And then
transferred to the Victoria Palace, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so moving on.
I'm going to move us to 1983, and you were in one of my all-time favourite films. There were many made right from the 40s with Johnny Weissmuller. I think you all know Chris is going to mention. And of course, that was Tarzan, which was Tarzan Greystoke, Greystoke, Lord of the Apes or something, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah. And with a fantastic cast. But I was cast as an ape. So, but I have to say, I did have billing. Yes, I did come down the screen.
Right.
But no, so they were, because I was so fit and athletic, there was this, and two of us from Barnum got this film. And it was for Hugh Hudson, who did Chariots of Fire. And I just thought, well, you know, to get on a movie set isn't a bad thing. And, you know, I don't have to sing, you know, it was sort of, I thought, and I thought it'd be quite a breeze, but of course it wasn't. We spent a year, I got a year's contract and I did 1 week's filming.
Not bad going, eh?
But I was in all the time learning ape behavior, watching every ape film, going to you know, these places, safari parks, studying apes, and it was really interesting. And these are I think you put them on Twitter. I kept these because this was they made us wear these. So those are my ape eyes. But look at the thickness. They're not like your contact lenses. They're like bottle tops. And we had to put them inside our eyes, you know, on our eyes. And they were
all the days of CG. What is it?
Oh yeah, none of that.
Yeah.
And the costumes weighed a ton. Anyway, but that was great. And you know, I've got lovely stories there. Walking on the set one day, nobody was there, and this massive. It was at Elstree, the big set, massive jungle set there. And I walked on there, and this attractive young woman walked towards me in a white pearl knitted jumper. And she said, "Hi." And I said, "Oh, hello." She says, "Are you in this film?" And I said, "Yeah." And it was Andy McDowell. And we had a little chat. She said, "I'm ever so nervous." And it was her first film.
This film became very useful to you, didn't it? Because then you were cast in the Tom McGrath play Animal with Sarah Berger.
Well, that actually didn't happen. What it was really good. And I'll come to Animal in a minute.
Okay.
because that's a bit later on. But yeah, I'd sort of learned everything there was to know about apes and and all that, and how to speak like an ape, all that stuff. So it's useful stuff. And in actual fact, when I played Puck later on, the director wanted Puck to be sort of metamorphosed, animal-like and snake-like. Yeah. So I did that. I used the ape in that, it sort of danced around. Anyway, so then having done Barnum, I think because of that, I went for a few auditions and I got Rocky Horror Show on tour, playing Riff Raff and Jesus Christ Superstar. And then after that, I got to go play. Anna, have you played? I'm sorry if I keep going to. Anna, have you played the Ludlow Festival? You must.
I haven't actually.
Oh,
no.
Well, I'd have thought so. Anyway, I did the Ludlow Festival, and that was fantastic. I played Puck in that, and that was directed by Peter Grigine. So, I'm learning all the time: musical, singing, physical. And when I was out of work, I was out of work a little bit, but I was having a good time. It was sort of rolling on, and I used to go to these classes, or I even took up dance classes in Covent Garden. I did a bit of ballet just to sort of keep in with that.
Pineapple Studios.
Come on then, next one, John.
Well, you've got to talk about the 3-day rehearsal on after you were chatting to somebody at a bar.
Yeah, well, and then this doesn't happen a lot, if ever. But I was in town, and I was in the pub opposite Drury Lane, and by then I'd got to know a couple of people, and I was having a pint. I was just in town. I think it was audition or something, and somebody was at the bar. Harold Harrison was at the bar, who worked for Cameron Mackintosh, and he was talking to the director, not the director, but the assistant director who was going to direct. And Kevin Williams, the actor, had to leave for some reason. I think he may have got another job, and it was the Duke of Austria, a sort of lecherous, sort of operatic singer, and in the bar they were talking, and Howard turned to me and he said, "Hey, Chris could do it." And I said, "Do what?" He said, "Oh, we got this part down the road at the Aldwych." And then the director said, "Oh, right." He said, "Oh, he's really good. He can." And I think, yes, the director had done something else. Anyway, you know how it is. And so I was, they said, "Oh, well, yeah, you can do it." And so the character only came in the second half. And then the first person I worked with in that show was Maria Friedman. She was playing a princess, I can't remember. But anyway, so that was a great experience, a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, and I had special dispensation. I didn't have to go into the theatre. Are you ready? Till the interval. So,
very good.
That was good. So that didn't happen again. So that was with Paul Nicholas. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and next came a fabulous film, which a lot of people didn't like it, but I thought it was superb. The Alexander Salkind production, Santa Claus the Movie,
with Dudley Moore.
Yes.
Dudley Moore. Well, that was one of my disappointments. It was about time I had a disappointment, and I auditioned for one of the leading elves, and I wasn't lucky. But they did, they said to me, and I said, I thought it was in the bag, 5'2", and that just shows. So I didn't get it, and but they offered me 2 weeks' work as another elf, and I thought, oh well. I said to my agent, oh well, yeah, all right, it's on a film set, and I'll learn. So yeah, all right. I wasn't proud, but then when I got on the film set, I thought I'd be like one of the other elves, like there'd be about 5 others. No. Well, you've seen the film. There's about 400.
Oh gosh!
I don't know where they came. It was all those little guys who wanted Tom Thumb. They were back.
That's it. Yeah. Choreographed by the fabulous Pat Garrett, of course.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, yeah. This
Brilliant.
Pat's not here, is she? No.
No, she isn't, unfortunately. She lives in Spain, so she's busy doing other stuff. But anyway, so
Yeah.
now we can talk about Animal at the Southampton Nuffield Theatre.
So this was a director, Justin Green, was directing a Tom McGrath play called Animal, and it was based on the experience of Jane Goodall in Tanganyika in the jungle, where she did lifelong research on apes and their behavior. And Sarah Berger played the lead. She was the Jane Goodall character.
Mm-hmm.
It was loosely based on it, but it was about behavior. It was like the similarities between human and apes. So again, with my ape knowledge, it came in very useful. And we actually rehearsed, first and only time I've ever we actually rehearsed at London Zoo. Which,
Wow.
Yeah, and so we could talk to the animals. And don't ever go to a zoo with me, because I'll get the apes all worked up. And in actual fact, one of them tried to pull me when last time I went.
Let's go back to musicals and talk about Phantom at Sydenham.
Yeah, Sidmonton.
Yeah.
So then, you know, I've done Blondel, Cameron McIntosh, and then I get a call. They're doing, Andrew Lloyd Webber's doing the tryout of Phantom of the Opera. We've got Colm Wilkinson's going to do it, Sarah Brightman, Myra Sands, Clive Carter, David Burt, who else? Yeah, so it was a lovely cast, but it was only a small cast, and we did 1 hour of his Phantom, and we did it. He's got a church in his back garden. If anybody's been to Andrew's home in Sidmonton, well, in his back garden, he's got a church with a clock tower, like we all have. And so we were there, and lovely Richard Stilgo was there. So we sort of workshopped it, and that was a lot of fun. We had a great, and I stayed over at Sidmonton Hall in his pile, you know, which was really exciting. And I had a pre-Raphaelite on my bedroom wall, so you know, it was. So that was nice. It was a nice experience, and so we did the show in front of Hal Prince and all these, and Trevor Nunn and all the producers and people. It was an invited guest to see whether people wanted to take it on.
Yeah.
And in rehearsals, sorry, John.
No, I was going to say, and then of course you were directed by Trevor Nunn, weren't you? And,
yeah, well, very quickly in rehearsals of Phantom. We were in a rehearsal room in Covent Garden, and I was there with, I think, Ken Caswell. I was with Ken Caswell and somebody else, David Burman. And Andrew came in, and we were rehearsing. And Andrew gets very excited about everything he does. And he said, you know, he said, I really want a chandelier in this show. And everybody, you know, this, yeah, all right. He said, yeah, he said, you know, he said, I've got one at home, but I don't know where it is. To which I said, oh, so have I. I said, I'll have a look in the flat when I get home. You know, like, yeah, as if, you know, who's got a chandelier just hiding at home. Anyway, so that was fun. And then, like you say, at Sidmonton, Trevor Nunn came along, and I bumped into him because I'd auditioned and I was being offered Les Miserables. Yeah. And he said to me, he said, are you going to do it then? And what he didn't know was a very rare thing to happen. I'd also been offered Mutiny with David Essex, the musical. And I wanted to play the cabin boy because I was sort of cabin boy material. I quite fancied Mutiny because I liked the music and everything. Yeah. And so I was making up my mind. And so I chose Les Miserables, which probably was the right decision.
Yeah. So you were original cast at the Barbican, and then you transferred to the Palace Theatre after that. Yeah.
And at the end of during the run at the Miserable, if anybody saw it at the Barbican, I think it ran about 4 hours long. And I remember coming off stage one night, and everybody, all the cast, I said, I give it 3 months,
The rest
I know, I was saying, I should have done Mutiny because it was so long.
Yeah.
But obviously we cut it, and then it was a rip-roaring success. Still goes on. It was nice to be in the original,
Yeah. And then, of course, you did the 10th anniversary, and that was at the Albert Hall, and then the 25th at the O2.
Yeah. So that was nice to see them all.
Yeah, and I think that was recently televised, actually, the 25th anniversary, and of course, the wonderful Sally Mates, of course,
sadly
died. Yes, yeah.
But it was nice, you go back 25 years later, and everybody says to, "Oh, you haven't changed." well, I have. I've lost my hair for a start. God's sake.
Something here, Chris, and I don't know what it is in my notes here. My guitar on the album.
Oh no, it was just as a musician. Basically, I lent my guitar to Ian in the pit, and he liked it so much. He said, "Can I play it on the Miserables album?"
Yeah.
And all the acoustic guitar on there is I wasn't playing it, but when I hear it, I always think of my old guitar. In the end, I gave to Ian. He loved it so much, I let him have it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Would you like to tell us, if it's not too bad, the pub story at the Coach and Horses with Lionel?
Well, not really. Who's been to the Coach and Horses by the Palace Theatre?
No.
Okay. Well,
Oh
no, it's not Lionel. It's Norman. Not Lionel was on the stage door. It was Norman. Norman, and it was known as the rudest landlord in London, and he really was, and he looked like Walter Matthau. And Jeffrey, who was a critic,
Jeffrey
Bernard, yeah. And he used to drink in there, and it was always packed. But people came to hear Norman because he was rude. Mm-hmm. And there was one matinee, sort of well into the run, when you can get dressed and on stage in 2 minutes. So I was in the pub. Norman would shout at people, but he had an eye for he liked me. And there was one day where it was a matinee, and it was summer, and I'd popped in. I popped in for a juice or something, and I didn't realise, but it had gone the half hour. And I was in, and Norman shouted across the pub, and there's all these people waiting, having a drink before they go in and see the show. And I'm stood there with someone talking about the show, and he shouts across, "Oi, you!" And I turn around, he says, "Now, fuck off and get into that theatre." He says, "What sort of an actor are you?" He says, "It's got me," and all this. And of course, everybody, you can imagine, when I actually appeared on stage, people in the audience going, "Oh, there he is." Anyway, so I'm
going to move us on, Chris.
Yeah.
So 1986, 87, television, comedy, wavelength, live scripts.
At that point, it was, and I'm not going to do that, but it was like the beginning. It was like alternative comedy was happening. Alexis Sale and all that, that's and there was this thing called Comedy Wavelength, and the host of Comedy Wavelength was a man called Paul Martin, who shortly after that, which was his first television appearance, he became Paul Merton. So Paul Merton was in it. He hosted it, and our great friend. I actually been in touch with Jonathan today. Jonathan Kidd was in it, and Josie Lawrence. And I have to tell you about my audition. I went for the audition, and it was the show was a live comedy sketch show, and there was a live audience. It was filmed live and put out live. Yeah, so you had to know your lines, you had to know what you do. It was very nerve-wracking, but we did. It was fun. It's great, and I learned a lot from the other comedians. And then I go to the audition, and the director gives me a script, and he calls this other lad over. He gives him a script. He says, "You two, I want you to go. You got 5 minutes. Work on it, and then I want to see it." So I went over with me and this other guy, and we were to be 2 police horses at a football match having a conversation. It was bizarre. It was quite funny, actually. And So I went over, and this lad straight away said to me, look, I think we should do this, and I think we should do that. And I said, look, I said, I really appreciate you trying to help. I said, but I think we've got, if we were in rehearsals, yeah, but I said, we've got 5 minutes now to get this job. I said, so can I just read it, and then we'll try something together. He said, yeah, all right. He said, I'm sorry. I said, it's all right. So it was lovely guy. So then we did the audition, and I got it, but he didn't. And he was Eddie Izzard. So it was Eddie Izzard who, he didn't get it. But then when we were rehearsing, Eddie used to come in all the time with scripts. He wouldn't give up. Even though he didn't get it, he just turned up uninvited with his scripts. And what I learned from Eddie Izzard is that he was totally committed to being a funny man. That was his route. Whereas I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just bouncing from pillar to post. He knew he was going to be a comedian, and he fulfilled that, didn't he? So that's that.
And then in 1987, Manchester, Granada was it Ultimate?
Yeah, we'll move. I presented a children's television program for David Lidderman up at Granada. That was wonderful. I would have liked to have done more presenting, but I think probably more suitable to presenting as I got older. And even now, I'd still like to do it. But I was very young, but I enjoyed it, did well, and met guests, well-known people, all that.
And then, of course, I've got down here back to the theatre, and you did Panto with a very, very funny man.
Yeah, with Ken Dodd.
Yes.
I mean, I can't believe I worked with him, but it was Sinbad the Sailor, and he had it in the script. I was his straight man, so I was with him all through, well, not all through, but a lot through the Panto. I was stood next to his side, and he just took the piss out of me mercilessly, because I'm only short. I'd walk on and go, who got you dressed? It was fantastic. And I've got to say about Ken Dodd, and he'd tell me dirty jokes backstage, then walk on, Mrs. And he used to be. I had a script, and what it was Sinbad, and I was the 40 thieves rolled into one. If you get him, so I was called Thief. I was just Thief. So and he used to say to me, and this was fantastic. At the time, it used to where I'd stand in the wings. I knew what I had to do when I go on, and he'd be in the way. He'd go, "Oh, Chris, when you come on, say this." He said, and then I'll hit you. Then you fall. He says, you get up, then say that to me, and I'll do that. He says, and we'll get a big laugh. I went, yeah, but and he'd be on. And I'd go, oh, God, what did he say? And he used to do this all the time. And I went home this one night, and I fell over, and I did this now. And he did the whole thing, and it didn't really get a laugh. And he turned to the audience. He said, do you know what? He says, he hasn't done what I told him to do. And he says he never listens. He says let's do it again, we'll get a laugh. So there was all that sort of danger that was absolutely wonderful. And so that was
training, isn't it?
It was long days, but great learning curve.
And then you did Panto. Is it the Prince's Theatre Torquay, Aladdin with the Hello cast? Yeah,
with the Hello cast. So that was great. I can't remember how I got that, but I think that was one that I was offered. I can't remember why, but yeah, that was nice.
And now I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the what I've got down here as the best experience of your career. You know what I'm talking about.
When I did Animal, there was a movement. The movement director was Jane Gibson. And Jane Gibson, I adore. She's brilliant. And because I'm a physical actor, we got on very well, and she helped me great. She's brilliant. And unbeknownst to me, she then started working at the National Theatre as a movement. And then I got a call, and it was through Jane. I was called in to go straight and meet Tony Harrison, the poet who did the Oresteia and all this stuff at the National Theatre, the poet, the great poet. Now, at this point, I didn't really know who he was, and you know, I was ashamed of that. But I was called in, and I went to see Tony. He's from Leeds, and he knows everything there is to know about ancient Greek and all that. Anyway, so I went into this office, and there he is, and he's got papers strewn everywhere. And it wasn't like an audition. He sort of said, you know, how do? He said, what do you know about satyrs? You know, I said, well, I know that they're sort of well endowed, and you know, that's about it. So he talked to me for an hour about the play, about what he wanted to do, and just fantastic. And I said to him, well, and it sort of, you know, it was coming to an end. And I said, well, thank you ever so much, Tony. I said, I don't know where this is going. I said, but thank you. You know, it's been a real education and a pleasure to meet you. And I'm going to look up my Greek now, you know. So, and he said, well, we start in 3 weeks. I said, oh, he says, rehearsing at the, what was the one on next to the Old Vic, you know, down the studio, the National Theatre studio. He says, we start rehearsals there in 3 weeks. I said, oh, well, you know, good luck with it. He said, no. He says, if you're not doing anything, I want you in it. You know, so I went, oh, all right, yeah, I'll do it. so that was lovely. And Tony Harrison is an extraordinary man. So we went, the idea was to rehearse for 6 weeks, and Jack Shepherd was in it, and Barry Rutter, Glover.
Brian Glover.
Julian.
Hmm?
Julian.
Brian Glover.
No, Brian Glover.
Brian.
Yeah, Brian Glover. And Juliet Stevenson played Kylene. She was the only woman in a 13 part, you know, cast. So it's all men. And we were like a football team, and everybody was Northern, and it was strong Northern, and it was all in verse. And it's called Trackers of Oxyrhynchus, and it was quite a hit. If you look it up, you'll find loads on it. And it was a lost Sophoclean play, satyr play. After all the dramas the Greeks used to put on a satyr play, which was like light entertainment. So his play was based on satyrs who loved to, well, as he said, shagging and bragging, and it was all sort of about satyrs enjoying life. And Apollo, Jack Shepherd played Apollo, looked down on the satyrs. So the play was about society, about class and high art and all that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's a great play. But the difference with Tony is
this took you out of the National. You went, did you go to
Delphi?
Delphi, yeah.
Yeah, I went to Delphi, so we played it at Delphi in the stadium at the top. If ever anybody been to Delphi?
No.
You must go, okay? That's all I'm saying. It's a very special place. And it's a place where Byron used to go. And there's this spring called Castalia, and it's these waters, and it says if you wash your head in Castalia, you'll be inspired. You'll do things. And Byron jumped in the whole thing, stripped off and leapt in. But anyway, lots of stories. But we went to Delphi. That was brilliant. And at the end of that play, because initially we were only doing it for one performance for the Greeks, and we had 2,000 people in the audience in this stadium. It was open air. It was magnificent. And at the end, Jocelyn Herbert was the set designer. And at the end of the set, we set fire to, at the end of the play, we set fire to the set because the satyrs became football hooligans and thugs because they got lost, if you see what I mean. Yeah. So it became about that. And we set fire to the set, which was extraordinary. We then took it, in the end, Tony was persuaded to take it to the Olivier by Richard Eyre. Mm. When we went to the Olivier, before every show, Tony would appear backstage with champagne in a 2,000-year-old Greek bowl, and it would be full of champagne every performance. And he'd pass it, and all the cast would stand around. We'd all take some champagne. And he said, now go out. He's like a football manager. Go out, he said, and enjoy yourselves. And he said, spit out me words, you know, let them hear me words,
Yeah.
you know, and it was fantastic. It was really sort of gritty. And when we went to Athens on the plane, we were all on the plane. You've got all these northern actors, and we're all on the plane, and we're all having a drink, and we're all having fun and that. And I think we even had a sing song. And this woman turned round to Barry Rutter and said, "Excuse me," she said, "Are you an English football team?" And he said, "No, love, we're from National Theatre." So anyway, and then we took it. We went to Austria with it, and it was magical, and it changed my life. It was a great experience, and yes, profound effect on me, because it then got me writing, not prose but songs. I thought I'll I sort of started to write songs, and that was Tony Harrison's inspiration. And the trip, and then I went back to Greece on my own as a sort of spiritual thing. I walked around the Peloponnese for 6 weeks with just a small hold-all, and I walked from place to place, and I was put up by families. It was just like, I wish I'd have had a camera now. You know, these days I'd have taken a camera, but it was a wonderful experience.
And then, of course, this is where I think where we became acquainted at the National, of course, back in '97, I think it was, 96,
Yeah,
97, when you were in Guys and Dolls.
Yeah, I turned up at the audition. I really wanted that. I wanted to play Benny Southstreet. I really wanted it. And I went to the audition. I always remember it now. I had a brown double-breasted gangster suit. And I walked in looking like Joe Pesci, you know. And I didn't get it. I didn't get Benny. I got understudy to Benny. But as you know, John, I got a couple of nice comedy moments.
Oh, yes.
And I went on as Benny. The guy, unfortunately, he was ill for a while. So I did get a good, I think I got a good month on stage as Benny.
Well, if anybody is looking for an exceptional waiter that will entertain you, you need this guy if he's happy to do it for you. I mean, do you want to just tell a little story about what you did? Your little bit of
well, it was a bit naughty, but no, Richard Eyre gave me the go. He said, "Yeah, no, that's fine," because what happened, if you saw the Guys' Dolls with Imelda Staunton and
Colin Stinton?
No, the first one.
Henry Goodman.
Henry Goodman. Yeah. That was the one I was in. Then Colin Stinton came in, but at the interval, everybody went out for the interval. But the stage had to be set for a cocktail bar, and where Skye Masterson and Imelda were to meet.
Miss Adelaide.
Yes. And so I camped it up. So this waiter was very light on his feet, but I played the waiter during the interval as the audience were coming back in. And of course, you know, like if you get a laugh, you want more, don't you? So it built and built, and I started to add things. And I used to sort of mince across the stage and put the glass down and then have a little sip of it and put it back. And, you know, and then I perfected this throwing. It looked like an olive, but it was a grape. And I used to stand in front of the audience. You know, it was a third wall away. They weren't the audience, but I was looking at them, and I'd throw it up and catch it in my mouth, then give a little skip. Then I'd skip off. But I think John will say
it was a round of applause every time. And I remember if I may interrupt, Chris used to, our dressing rooms, they were like the little photo booths. Anna will know this, but they're like little photo booths. And Chris was, I think I was a little bit further along, but anyway, I thought, what's that on the floor? Something like orange. I thought, what is it? And it was his wig. It had I didn't know that was, and I picked it up, and he said, he came in, "Where's my wig?
Get off my wig."
He put this wig on, and I thought, it's not straight. And I thought, I'm going to. And he minced down the corner. I said, "Your mince isn't meaty enough." I said, "You need to," and he said, "I'll do it especially for you."
Yeah. Which it was the very worst thing you could have said to me. It's not enough. Anyway, I'm sorry, and I know if we were listening to Anna, she'd be on here for days and days telling her stories.
Well, I'm going to be really rude and move us on.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
I'm going to do it. I'll do it for you.
go
I
on.
then played Puck again on tour. I was on tour in Harrogate. I got a call. Did I want to do some television? Anyway, long story, very long story short. I then went into the Tweenies on children's television, and I stayed for 4 years. I mean, talk about difference. I was 1 minute I'm on the theatre stage, then I'm prancing about in a big purple head, but it was for 4 years and 400 episodes. But it was a lot of fun. It was knackering, but it was a lot of fun. And of course, you know, I don't mind saying 4 years in television, day in, day out, you know, it helped pay the mortgage. So I stayed. And as I was doing that, I was also then starting to be a musician, you know, come out as a musician, meet wonderful musicians that I'd met in the pit, in the shows I've been in. I formed a rock and roll band. So I was doing Tweenies, rock and roll band. And then when I left Tweenies, I felt that I'd sort of gone missing from theatre. But what I had done in all that time we talked about, I had actually I'd done 12 or 15 commercials featured, because being small, it was a big thing. Small sold, you know, this bigger isn't better thing. So I did commercials. I did a bit of everything, and I did little parts in sitcoms. I did, and it was all the people I'd known sort of called me in, and that was great. But I wanted to do more of that. I've always wanted to be in film, and it's never happened for me. So so that's that. Then I did Tweenies. I came out of that. I then did another program in Cardiff, which was a children's thing, and then it all slowed down, and I was then more music, and I was getting a bit old. And then my personal situation, as these things happen, and when my son was born, that had a profound effect on me, a good effect. And I started to sort of mellow. And as I say, it wasn't that I gave up the thing. I sidestepped it, and it was a bit of a dry, you know, a barren period. Nothing was happening. And my son was born, and I think some of you might know. So he has Down syndrome and autism. So he changed my life. So I sort of grew up very quickly, but as he got older, and this is where Natalie comes in, down there. Natalie is liaison officer at a school in Banbury for children and young people who have special needs. And so really what happened was I left the theatre, and then I wrote a song with my son, and then I realised he started giving me some really good lyrics. So then I piloted a scheme, and I stopped performing and showing off myself, and started to share the skills I'd learnt with students, with anybody who has an additional need. I formed a company called Song Unite. We made a documentary. We did lots of songwriting workshops, and that went on for 5 or 6 years. And Natalie played a big part in that, because Natalie's school was the first one that accepted me and my company, and that grew. And then sadly, the funding started. You know, I had funding at first, and then county councils, the funding stopped, and it was actually becoming too much for me, because it was a one-man band. And I continued with that, and then total change. I then became project manager, what would it be, 2 to 3 years ago, on the blue whale that is at the Natural History Museum. My cousin, actually, his company puts together all those dinosaurs and everything all around the world in all the museums and natural history. He's like #1, and they're based in Canada, and he invited me to project manage the blue whale in England. So I spent a year on that, finding a hidden location where they could build the whale. And in actual fact, if you see the whale at the Natural History Museum, I did the tail. So I'm very proud of that. And also, what's very important is to do with the theatre and acting. I went through that stage of total lack of confidence and stage fright. So I suffered, it hit me. And I've heard about this before. So, I didn't want to make myself ill. So that sort of eased me out. And I love doing the work. And I still do the work. I will do when we finished the lockdown. But I can't work with groups with special needs. I do a bit online. And I'll go back to that. And I'm now working with people who have mental health issues. And it's songwriting. And it's wonderful. So that's that. And just to sum up, where am I now? Yeah. Well, in this lockdown, again, as you've heard, I sort of shift and move about. Deep down, I think maybe I wished I'd have focused on one thing, which was comedy. But because of Support British and because I've been watching and I've been rekindling friendships from years ago, actors and people in the bit. Jonathan Kidd, I hadn't seen Jonathan and we're sort of going to get together. That's wonderful. I'm now thinking I might come back. You've got
to. You never went away, Chris. I always say this, that
it was a 15-year sabbatical.
It's a bloody long time, but nevertheless, the thing is, it's in your blood, and it's a good addiction in so many ways.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think I missed that. Rush, that adrenaline.
Yeah, exactly. I think the camaraderie of it, and that's what is so heartbreaking when things finish. But we're all going through this. So, but I was going to say that to you. So.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
I haven't finished. I'm going to say to you, Chris. So
no.
What do you think the future holds for you? What do you think? What would you like?
Well, I've got an idea in my head. There's one thing I'm going to do, which I've always wanted to do, and it's to do with a film. So I think I can do that. But I would like. It's always difficult to talk about yourself as an actor because you don't want to say. But yeah. I've been told so many times that I do have funny bones. That I can make people laugh, and I know I can. So I think. Now I feel, I'm old and I think I'd like to do more comedy or I'd love to play, do some great characters.
Well, characters, I'll mention this, a bit of why not plug it? You're going to be appearing in the 12th Night, which I'm producing for Raising Funds for Acting for Others, along with the fabulous Anna Carteret. I don't know where she is on your screen.
She's next to you.
Oh, is she? Yes, she is. That's at the top.
I'm actually sandwiched between you, John.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
I've got a Carteret Craggs sandwich.
So there we are. So we've got that to look forward to, and it's going to be.
Well, I have to thank you, John, and those listening. This is how it works. John asked me, he said, would you like to? And you know what? I almost said no, because I thought, I probably can't do it. But you know what? And Anna, I've been reading the script and I love it. And it's just like, I'm not scared of it anymore. I'm going to really enjoy it. Yeah, and that's come back, that sort of excitement.
Yeah.
So I've got you to thank for the next stage of my career.
Well, the hard work comes in from you as everybody as individuals. I mean, I've always said this with Support British. It's everybody's account. It isn't mine. Yeah. Well, it is, but it's there for everybody to use. And I say, use it, don't abuse it. So, is there anybody who'd like to ask a question? If not, I'll pick on somebody. So somebody's going to. Who shall we? We'll go for Sharon. Hello, Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
There you go.
Oh, where have you gone? Hi, Chris.
I'm following you, Sharon.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought you were. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if you saw in the chat. You mentioned my ancestor there with Lord Byron.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, well, I never met him.
No.
He never came to see Barnum.
I'm trying to live up to his reputation.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
I do write poetry as well, which is quite ironic.
Well, no, it's nice.
yeah.
It's in the genes, isn't it?
It's gotta be. It's gotta be. Yeah, yeah. But no. Is there a role that you've always wanted to play and never had a chance to play?
Yes, I'd quite like to have a go at Mozart. I was going to see the first night of a musical called Windy City years ago, and I walked up the stairs and I was spotted by a casting director. And then the next day, my agent rang me and they said they want to see you for Mozart for Milos Forman's film, Amadeus. And I did go up for it, but I didn't get it. That as a character, but I'd like to sort of anything comic, and anything that has like a physicality, that sort of Chaplin, all that sort of comedian that's physical, makes you laugh without saying anything.
Yeah. Cheers, thank you.
Ollie.
Ollie's face.
Don't be scared. You can unmute yourself, and Chris won't bite.
Sorry, I didn't hear my name being said then.
Oh right, you just saw it, yeah.
I don't have a question right now, but I've sort of done similarly to what you've done as well, Chris. Like sort of dabbed in all different areas of the industry, whether it's children's theatre, theatre, just general theatre. A lot of screen work, that kind of thing. So I guess it's whoop, there we go. So I guess it's good that, because a lot of professionals have told me, sort of pick one area and stick to it. But
yeah,
I guess it's good having heard from a professional, from yourself, that it's okay to dab in different areas. And I've got interest in a lot of different areas, I guess, and I'm just the type of person that likes to try something new, explore something new.
Well, that's exactly like me, isn't it? I think it's good, this. I actually said to an actor once, who sat next to me in the dressing room, and he was young, and I said, you know what you want to do? I was joking. I said, what you want to do is get in a van and travel the country, put the set up. And he said, oh no, he says, I'm just doing West End and telly, And I said, well, yeah, if you can, I'm very pleased for you. But it doesn't work like that, does it, Anna? I think you're doing the right thing. And then, but maybe that, as I say, I don't have a regret, but I had those opportunities with the comedy. But you see, back then, now comics, Lee Mack and that, they have their own sitcoms. It's changed. That didn't happen then. Comedy was in the Comedy Store. It was sort of hidden away. It wasn't, apart from really going back, Morecambe and Wise and that. The new comics weren't on TV. So, but I think it's really good for any actor to work backstage at least once, see what it's like from the stage management point of view. Yeah. So I think you're doing the right thing, and I think maybe at some point you think that's what I want. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Laura, because it'd be lovely to hear your opinion. When Chris was talking about, we're obviously everybody's going through a very, very lot of challenging times, and Chris touched on well, not touched on, because it's very important that we address it, the mental health aspect of people and in this industry. So I'd be interested to hear your take on that with Chris, and I don't know what you feel on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's as you say, mental health at the moment is absolutely rife in a lot of different areas. What would your experience has been, having been on film, TV, theatre? You've literally covered absolutely everything that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
What's been your experiences in mental health within the industry, and what would you like to see that is changed for improvements?
I've noticed on like social media, on Twitter, how people now are being more open, and I'm more open now because I'm older. I think as you get older, you start to sort of tell people what you think. If there's anything good come out of this, is that people now are talking, and younger people, and I feel so sorry for the younger generation who are struggling. It must be awful, you know, struggling, but they're talking about it. But I don't mind saying I've struggled myself, you know. So and I've had health issues, but you try and find ways to deal with it. Helping other people is always great, but also keep busy, have a purpose. You can help people by ringing them up and just saying, you know, I'm here. You don't have to tell them what you think they should do. You should just listen. And I think you're empathetic if you're aware of it, or in any way, you're more empathetic to people. And it's a bit like a disability, you know, living with disability. And Natalie will tell you, you know, you realise how sometimes how difficult it can be.
I'd like to bring in Natalie. Hi, Natalie.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
You and your husband chatting away, and a bit of critique there, maybe, but what your
husband's hiding now.
Why are you hiding?
I'm here. Hello, Chris.
Hello there. How are you?
Hi. Hello,
Natalie deserves centre stage on this one.
Yeah, well, she's very photogenic.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
What a journey this gentleman has been on, and it isn't over yet. I mean, it's just amazing, isn't it, what he's been doing, and you know.
Yeah, and such an incredibly modest man, really. I mean, he brought some wonderful sessions and, you know, some brilliant activities to the children that I work with.
Yes.
They work with him. They produced amazing songs. You know, it was such a boost to confidence, and, you know, some of the kids, the way they grew and developed just by working with Chris was amazing. And I think in terms of a sabbatical, I mean, it was a blooming good way to spend it, I think. And stuff. So
I think it's marvelous because you know, I've done, I personally, it's not about me, but I'll mention I have done theatre in education. Pantomime I'm fine with, but I think you've got to you've got to be a certain type of person, I think, to be able to work with children. And if I've got them there and I'm up here, I'm fine. But you know, I absolutely applaud anybody that can work with children. What age groups are these children?
At our school, they're between 2 and 19. So it's really
quite a wide. Yeah.
I used to add, I didn't work with the 2-year-olds on the song.
Well, that's lovely, and it's nice to hear that, you know, that connection. And how did you first get together then with Chris, or how did Chris get in touch with you?
It was a connection through our headmaster, and I think Chris's brother. Is that right, Chris? Did you done something in Somerset, or I can't remember where Simon came across you and introduced us?
Oh no, there was a fair for activities that at schools and organisations who work with people who have disabilities, additional needs. It was like you'd set up a stall and tell people what you did, and the deputy. He was deputy then, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He came along and had a chat, and you know, he liked it. So yeah, it was that, and then I went to see Natalie, who had the final word, and she let me in.
Are you working again with Natalie then, Chris?
Well, I'd love to. I mean, I moved to the South Coast, so I was living in Oxfordshire where Natalie is, and I moved South Coast, so there's a distance now, but I'll tell Natalie here and now, I'll, you know, we could maybe work something out, you know, if you can find me a bed for a couple of nights, I'll come and do a couple of sessions. It'd be
fab. It always amused me that one of the girls, you know, you'd done all these amazing roles, and I used to say, oh, you've been in Phantom and Les Mis, and I used to say, yeah, but get him to do the Tweenie voice. And I said, he wasn't the voice, he was just the body. No, Natalie, get him to do the voice.
Well, and listen, we've all experienced this. You reminded me of my father, because there's nobody in my family in the theatre or, you know, our business. And he used to, you know, when I was at the National Theatre and, you know, all this wonderful stuff that I was very proud of. He'd only tell the neighbours if I was in a commercial, you know. He's in this beer commercial, you want to see him? Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, Natalie. It's lovely to
Yeah,
outside.
Natalie, it's lovely to see you. I haven't seen Natalie for a while, everybody.
There
So
you are.
I'm looking forward.
Thank you for having me.
We'll meet up again.
What's your husband's name? Because what's his name?
Andrew.
Hello, Andrew. How are you?
Don't be shy, Andrew.
Oh,
Oh, not being shy. I'm just allowing Natalie to be where she belongs.
I know.
I can say from seeing Chris from the sidelines and being more an observer,
yeah,
and also hear obviously what Nat says when she comes home, but seeing some of the sessions from a distance, it just bowls me over, and I'm nothing to do with it. I'm just in business, But seeing what Chris brought to those kids, I don't know what you did on stage and all the rest. That's great, but I know for those kids, you touched their lives in a very special way.
Yeah.
Well, thank
and
you.
that's something. If you did nothing else in your life, you've done something brilliant.
Wow, I'm blushing.
It's
So
amazing.
thank you. What I'd like to say to the actors and everything is that I got as much enjoyment and more than being on stage working with the young people. The sort of feedback, and also I could now talk about disability, but the passion and the commitment they gave to the workshops, they were always there, and they were always being creative.
I'm going to bring in now, just for a few minutes.
Are we all right? Is everybody okay?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, you will. There's two of you, as I mentioned earlier. You'll be both, and I'm going to be appearing in it in 2 or 3 scenes. That, of course, with Anna Carteret. You'll be working with Anna.
Looking forward to it.
And also, both of you. It's great. Both of you worked at the National Theatre. Of course, Anna's worked at the National Theatre. So, I'm sure that there'll be people that you've maybe worked with or met, en route in the theatre or whatever there that you both know. So, I hope you've enjoyed it, Anna, and it's lovely.
I have.
To see you.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
You know how it is when you're talking about yourself. It's difficult, isn't it? Because you don't want the, But I was, when I went, John asked, and I was looking. I thought I'd put all this away. I'd put it in a box, and it was the past. And it's so nice to revisit the past. But yeah. And so thank you to John for doing that. And as I say, I think I'm going to sort of and doing the 12th night with you, Anna, and the rest of it's dipping my toes back in, and but I'm thoroughly enjoying it, So.
Yes.
And of course, you'll meet David Horowitz again.
Yeah, well, don't tell David, because I was
He'll have seen your name on the cast, I'm sure. So
he won't recognise it because I had
like that, trying to work out where he knows you from.
I had blonde floppy hair then.
You have to get a wig and put it on and say, "Does this remind you of anybody?"
He'll go, dear God, what's happened to you, young man?
Oh dear. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say goodbye because this is a recording. Yes. I'm going to stop the recording so anybody that's watching the replay, they'll understand why. And so I'll stop it now and I'll say thank you very much. Don't go anywhere, everybody. I'm going to stop it now.